Welcome to Round Hill Radio. Through our conversations, we discover the holy in the ordinary, look for moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about when we talk about faith. Hey, Ed.
How you doing, Leslie?
I like to give it a little extra zhuzh from
Yeah,
now and
nice.
then.
Pizzazz.
Pizzazz. The old razzle-dazzle.
Well done.
Thanks. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, and we're so glad to have you with us. Today's reading is week 50. What?
I can't believe we hit week 50.
I know, we both did the same thing with our books. Like,
Yeah, is that really the case?
oh my gosh. And our reading is from Romans. This is a Common English Bible version.
It
Is
is.
that correct? That's what CEB stands for.
Yes.
I can be taught. And is Romans 12, 9 through 21. Let's dive in and see what we see.
All right. So, yeah, we thought we might make this a little more interactive and intersperse some comments, and then we'll have a discussion about it. And so I will say that this text coming from the letter to the Romans is attributed to St. Paul,
Okay.
who wrote many letters. We have some of them, but we were thinking that probably a lot of the letters did not survive. But this might be his most involved and theologically complicated letter.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like a super personal letter. He argues philosophically and theologically about big themes in this letter. But he does have this amazing section here about love, which he often does in his letter. I mean, when it comes down to it, he's really trying to say to people, love one another, okay?
Yeah.
And because apparently they weren't. So this
What?
is
Humans weren't? What?
amazing. Yep.
Surprising.
And the way he phrases this, although it's about love, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
So let's see what he says. This is from the 12th chapter of the letter to the Romans. By the way, Paul, it's likely, did he die there? I think so. So anyway, there was a growing church in Rome, and he's reaching out to them. And he says, love should be shown without pretending. So what would we say today? It's got to be authentic, right? Hate evil. So we were talking about love, but apparently there's room for hate. So you've got something that you can hate, but it's better be evil.
Yeah.
And hold on to what is good. I'm not going to make this many interjections through the whole
I'm
thing.
loving this. This is very entertaining.
But it is interesting that Jesus, at one point in his life, someone reached out to him and said, "Good teacher, what must I, ... And he said, "Why do you call me good? Only God is good." And so he resisted goodness as an attribute or as a title.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Right. But here Paul says, hold on to what is good. Love each other like the members of your family. Hopefully, it's a healthy family.
I was gonna say.
Good boundaries, and so on and so forth. Be the best at showing honor to each other. Don't hesitate to be enthusiastic,
Woo!
right? Be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord. Be happy in your hope. Stand your ground when you're in trouble, and devote yourselves to prayer. Love that line. It just sort of flows almost poetically, right? You got those things. Contribute to the needs of God's people, and welcome strangers into your home. You have to believe that this is a little bit of a shout out to the way that churches were growing. So first of all, help one another in the church community, God's people. Welcome strangers into your home might be people like Paul, traveling missionaries, evangelists, preachers who go from place to place. They need a place to stay. I don't necessarily think this means welcome any stranger into your home, but it may be.
Okay.
It's possible. So, yes, welcome strangers into your home. Now, I love this. Bless people who harass you.
It's quite a translation.
Yeah. Bless and don't curse them. I think we're getting good opportunity to experience this these days, given the current climate.
I feel like he says it twice.
Right. Be happy with those who are happy and cry with those who are crying. Interesting, right? Consider everyone as equal and don't think that you're better than anyone else. Instead, associate with people who have no status. Don't think that you're so smart. Love that line, right? Don't pay back anyone for their evil actions with evil actions, but show respect for what everyone else believes is good. I think that's interesting because what if those who believe what is good are not lining up with your community?
Right.
So is he reaching out to a universal definition of goodness?
Right.
Does he think that that's actually prevalent and we can depend on that? Because today, I'm not so sure that people feel as confident about that. Statistically in the United States, people are feeling less hopeful these days than at any other time in many decades. So that's been very interesting to see. And but nevertheless, Paul says, show respect for what everyone else believes is good.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful vision, right? That there's a common good.
Yeah.
If possible, to the best of your ability, live at peace with all people. Don't try to get revenge for yourselves, my dear friends. And I wish he'd stopped right here, but no, he says, but leave room for God's wrath.
You know what that makes me think of, though? That makes me think of like when people see someone doing something and they're like, well, karma's going to get them.
Yeah, it is. I think it is a little.
It's kind of
There's a universal payback system.
Yeah, like, I don't have to worry about that because that's going to come back around.
Yeah. I think it's so fascinating because as Paul's saying, look, really, we want to reflect God's values, but in this area, God operates on a different punishment system than we do. Mm-hmm. So we just have to put that in God's hands as judge. It is written, revenge belongs to me. I will pay it back, says the Lord. So he even uses a scriptural underpinning for it. Okay. Instead, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. Now, he's right in the Jesus way here, right? So somebody strikes you on one cheek, give to them the other, and so on. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. Again, would have been good to have stopped here. By doing this, you will pile burning coals of fire upon his head. Well, anyway, he brings it back. He says, don't be defeated by evil, but defeat evil with good.
I mean, it's worth saying he's sort of speaking to our sort of sense of humanity, right?
Yes.
And we all kind of have this sense in us of like, people do bad things. You're like, oh, that's really frustrating. And the idea that like, by doing good, you're kind of like,
yeah,
right. It's not speaking to our better angels necessarily, right. But it is speaking to something very real and very human, which I will appreciate when someone cuts me off in traffic, for example.
It's kind of like, don't hurt anybody back, but hurt them back with good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Kill them with someone with kindness.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe where this phrase might actually, who knows, the original seedling for that phrase might be right in this text. Mm-hmm. Kill them with kindness. So that is this expression of love in action. And it kind of breaks down into a lot of interesting things. I mean, he covers a lot of ground here. Family love, prayer, contributions to God's people. There's empathy here. Mm-hmm. If anybody's crying, cry with them. Consider everyone as equal. It is a very, very deep. It's not just deep, it's broad.
Yeah.
There's a breadth of understanding here about how the world is going to be changed with the power of love.
I mean, this is one of those moments where I feel like it would, of course, be so helpful to know who is receiving this letter.
Right. Yep.
Because I think about, this letter in the sense of like, the sermons you give on Sunday mornings. Yes, they're a standalone piece of theology and encouragement and wisdom, but also it's within the context of the life of this church.
Yes,
the
very true.
Larger world. Like you can't just pluck it out, move it over 10 years, and it's going to have the same meaning as it did yesterday, for example.
Yep.
And so I think I always want to know more. Like, give me context. What's happening? Because I don't love, I feel like this podcast has just been like one multi-year thing of me being like, but what do we actually know? And what's actually happening? And like, because I don't like taking it out of context. That drives me absolutely bonkers. And so I'm like, how much context do we have? And like, how do we understand what the person meant?
Yeah.
Not just what they're saying.
It's a nice thought, Leslie.
This is why I did not go to seminary. I would have been obnoxious.
You would have been really, there you go. Constantly banging on the door, right?
I mean, I took some classes at YDS. You had to.
Yeah.
I was 100% that person.
So there you go.
So was everybody else. It's okay.
Yeah, we don't know if the church in Rome was in some ways, if there's like if there are very specific issues within each of the that are connected.
I feel like the bottom part where he's like, I mean, you're burning coals of fire upon his head. That feels like he's talking about, like, you know, that person that's doing the thing.
Yeah.
Just love them anyways. I know you don't want to. I know you don't want to.
Very possibly.
You know, it kind of feels like that. But I do, to go back to the earlier point, I do appreciate that. I think it's so much, it's so realistic. I feel like what he's saying versus like completely, you know, just do like, we're not all Jesus. We can't just forgive them and move on. Well, we could, but it's so much harder. And I feel like he's sort of finding like, okay, well, if you can't do that, at least do this.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think the word that I've been thinking a lot about recently, and just happened to mention it to you earlier, is the word capacity. You know, when we're asking, like, what kind of capacity do we have for love? Like, how much love is possible? Because quite often I'll be with someone together watching the news or hearing news that's happening and something awful happening, and someone will say, I could never forgive that. Usually it's just this very, you know, quick reaction to whatever's happening. You know, I'd want to see justice done or whatever it might be. So it is very real in the sense that these texts are addressed to people who might be saying and feeling things like that. We tend to be, you know, often there's a phrase that we've talked about before that's sometimes used in the world of coaching, self-limiting beliefs.
Okay.
Right? So self-limiting beliefs are, you know, I could never run that far, or I could never lift that weight, or I could never love like that. And we say these things almost automatically without really giving it serious thought. Like, why am I saying that? Why am I limiting myself in those ways? If we went down line by line through this passage and asked the question, what self-limiting belief is Paul challenging here? That would be really interesting. Because it's as though someone, you know, has said, I can only respond to evil by hurting the other person. And then Paul says, well, go ahead and hate evil. Notice he doesn't say hate the person.
Right.
He says hate evil, which is the expression that comes through a person,
Right.
and hold on to what is good. That reminds me of this story I heard. This was a story from the Vietnam era when somebody was out in front of the White House protesting, you know, the sign, anti-war movement.
Yeah.
And someone happened to mention to this individual, you know, that's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen. You're never going to change those people, referring to the leadership inside. And this person turned around and said, I'm not necessarily looking to change them. I'm making sure they don't change me. And I think that this passage, you know, he's saying, hold on to what is good. Don't give up on that, because, you know, once you start fighting fire with fire, in a sense, you've lost.
Yeah.
So how can you retain your values and push back?
Yeah.
That's the qualm. That's the moral quandary. And again, self-limiting beliefs, I think, are also convenient because they just help us to say, yeah, that's not me. I could never do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't forgive that person like that. And we'll sometimes say those things when we've actually heard a remarkable story about someone who's forgiven something tremendous. And the first reaction will be, I could never do that. I mean, that's amazing that they did it. Good
Right.
for them, but
Right.
not me.
Sometimes I'll use the phrase different kind of human. I'm like, they're just a different kind of human than me.
There it is.
They're
you
just
know?
better.
Right? And this passage is actually sweeping it all clean and saying, nope, we all have that capacity. We all have that capability. And maybe the deeper question is, what kind of community do we need in order to become that kind of person? Right? Because maybe we can't do that. We can't do that alone.
Oh, I like that. Go, keep going.
Well, you know, I'm thinking of a book that became very popular in the early part of the 20th century. I think that's when it was written, called In His Steps.
Okay.
It was written by a man named Charles Sheldon, I believe, and he was a pastor from the Midwest. He wrote it as a story, and it's about a group of people in a church who suddenly become aware of social evils in their community, right? Disparity among people. So not all the congregation, but a minority of the congregation begin to say to one another, okay, we're going to meet with each other every Sunday after worship, and we're going to talk about the places in our lives where we feel a disparity between who we're called to be and who we currently are.
Ooh, interesting.
And then, and that might be in terms of how business decisions are made or priorities are set at a school or someone dealing with a personal addiction issue.
Yeah.
And by the way, those are all the issues that come up in that little situation. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see how we can help each other. So to me, the big lesson there is they don't try to do it alone. Mm-hmm. And I think the big weakness still, we haven't really gotten past this, in the way that church life is ordered, is that sermons on Sunday morning seem to be addressed to a community, but they're really addressed to individuals, right?
Okay.
All individuals sitting in a congregation at one time, who are then dispersed out into the world. So more or less left to our own devices. Yeah. And that's where people they might feel walking out of worship. What does he say here? Don't hesitate to be enthusiastic, be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord. Well, we might be right here with that. But as the week goes on, we lose that energy because we're working away at it alone. We're never meant to do that. Paul was a community builder. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the one thing I think we can say about context is that all of his letters are addressed to communities.
Okay.
So the big assumption there is that you really can't be the kind of person this is calling you to be without the accompaniment of other people.
Okay.
And maybe that is the big learning from here. I mean, this is why he uses the example of family, right? Mm-hmm. He says, love each other like the members of your family. He doesn't say love each other like those amazing athletes that we see, around the Roman Empire. Mm-hmm. But it's rather look to another community for an example of what love can look like.
Right.
So that's a little bit of background.
It's not, and I'm reading into the sort of historical moment of that, but sort of, the loyalty, the looking out for each other kind of ideals of that. I have to say the hate evil and hold on to what is good reminds me, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but have we talked about Dr. Becky?
Yes.
Yes. So her whole thing is good inside.
Yes.
And this idea that I feel like society sometimes tends to label kids, like, oh, you're a bad kid. Mm-hmm. And then they think, oh, well, I'm a bad kid. And then they act like a bad kid because like, well, I'm a bad kid.
Yep.
Versus every child, some might say human being good. And that there's bad choices and there's bad actions.
Yep.
But they're fundamentally good. And if by knowing that you are good, you're more inclined to make good choices. Mm-hmm. At my child's school, they have red choices and green choices.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
She is very into this idea. She really likes how that's organized.
Yeah.
And so she'll go, that's a green choice. And I get thumbs up when she does this. She goes, that's a green choice, Mama? I'm like, that is a green choice. And I'm like, honey, you're making a red choice. And you can kind of see her kind of pause a little bit. And she's like,
yeah.
Sometimes she cares. Sometimes she
doesn't.
But
it feels good.
Yeah. Sometimes it's,
Is it a good red?
Yeah, not really. It's very funny. But it's sort of, I like how they've been doing that because it's more about choices than identity.
Yeah.
Which is
I love that.
Very nice. Yeah. She's like, red. She came home one day, I was like, red choice? And I was like, I'm going to guess what I think that is. And yes. It's like, honey, if you think it's a red choice, it's probably a red choice.
Yeah. Be safe.
Yeah. Err on the side of caution with that one, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even give it an amber.
Yeah. But then she'll come home and tell me all the red choices that other kids have been making.
Oh, good. That's called the power of negative example.
It's fascinating. It has been fascinating that since she started in school in September, like the influence of other kids.
I love it.
It's very interesting.
You're going to see this pop up as a message for all ages in our service very soon.
Red choices and green choices.
Yeah, thank you.
You're anytime. It's been fascinating.
Oh, that's great.
Fascinating.
That is
I'm
great.
like, can you go be friends with this kid? Because I really like their parents. And I feel like this is maybe a better choice. There was a point of this, the hating evil and holding on to what is good.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of...
It's a way to reflect on that.
Well, I feel like the hating evil sounds like I've been holding on to what is good, right? Mm-hmm. The holding on to the you that is good, and then we're hating sort of not even external evil, but like all those things. I think I would wonder what that original translation is too.
Yeah, I mean, I like the image of holding on to it because it indicates this is something you better. It's like a life vest, or a life whatever. You better hold on to it because it's kind of easy to lose it.
Yeah.
You can let it go.
But it also says you have it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, it's
Right?
there.
It's both.
And I think that's what he's getting at. A little later when he says, "Consider everyone as equal." Now, that's first of all, that's a huge.
What?
Yeah, and. Don't think that you're better than anyone else. Instead, associate with people who have no status. So this is really interesting because when we think about, and I think in our world, when we think about how to develop ideas and directions about how to address issues, our common move is to go to the experts. So who's known, who has status in this area, right? And he's talking about doing exactly the opposite of that. Talk to people who don't seem like they may know much about that subject. Go and ask them anyway. And I know I have mentioned this before, but it actually seems to relate here. Very dear friend of mine faced a challenging situation when his father developed dementia. And his dad was not always experiencing this. He was coming in and out of it. But Nick's response to that was to go to him and just out of the blue say, "Dad, what's the secret?" And sometimes his father would say, "The secret of what?"
Yeah.
Or sometimes he would say, "There is no secret." But sometimes he would say, "Nick, the secret is," and he would give him an answer.
Oh.
So Nick wrote these things down, and for his siblings who didn't live close by, he would send them to them.
Oh, neat.
And say, "Here are some words of wisdom from our father." So, Nick was approaching this whole situation believing that his father, in this changing mental state, nevertheless had ideas, vision, imagination, all of it. But as we count status, no status. So I think that's what he's getting at here.
Oh, interesting.
And that, again, think about children. Those with the least amount of status in the Roman world would have been children.
Okay.
Jesus actually spends quite a bit of time, in the whole, interacting with children. So that's interesting. And he even says, unless you become as a child, you can't enter the kingdom of God. Well, I think another translation from that is, unless you become as somebody who doesn't have any status, you can't enter the kingdom of God. Because the kingdom of God is not a new society that's built on status. It's built on this radical sense of hospitality. I think that's what he's picking up here when he says, consider everyone as equal. And that really grates, because a lot of people have spent their whole time in life, through education and proficiency and everything, trying to separate themselves from the crowd.
Gain status.
Right? And it's not that we shouldn't do those things, but what he's saying is don't lose the sense that doesn't make you better.
Right.
All that does, it means that you've gone on this search and you now have these resources and tools. Good for you.
Right.
But don't forget to interact with those who have no status. Don't think that you're so smart, right? Reminding me of my mother, you think you're real smart, don't you? I think I heard those words a fair number of times in my early days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was a very powerful equalizer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
So what a passage. I mean,
there's so much.
There is so much here.
There's so much.
Yep. And I just think that, it's another way to come at love, right?
Yeah.
To talk about it, to lift it up, celebrate it, and still bringing some imagery that we may not feel entirely comfortable with, but hey, leave it all there.
Leave it all there. I love that. So interesting. What an interesting. I'm still laughing at the "he will pile burning coals of fire."
That is an image that's really hard to get out of your head.
It's really, it's I gotta make a meme out of that or something. There's something funny there.
You know, especially you get a line right before it that's like so perfect. If your enemy's hungry, feed him. Thirsty, give him a drink. Yep, there it is.
Yep.
Nope, can't stop there. I've got one more thing to say, by the way. Anyway.
You need to know. Paul needed to know and let it alone.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Round Hill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Round Hill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillradio.org.
Big difference to us. Like the video, subscribe if you aren't, and click the notification bell and select all. Thank you.